Welcome back to the channel. This is NASA's Thread. Today on the channel, I'll be showing you how to make this stylish short pants with a zipper fly, side pocket, and turn up hem. If it's something you're interested in, you want to keep on watching. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, do well to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up and let's get right into this tutorial. To start off, we're going to be drafting our pattern. So I have my pattern paper down. I'm just going to make a line at the top to serve as the starting line. Okay, and then from there I'm going to measure 1/2 inch, which is going to serve as the joining allowance for when I'm joining my band to the shorts. Okay, after marking that, I will just go in and also roll out that line there. So my measurements are going to start from the second line which we just marked. So my band for the short is 1.5 inches. I'll be placing my tape 1.5 inches upwards, okay, like so, and then go on and mark my waist to hip point, which is 8 inches. And then the crouch depth, which is gotten by dividing my round hip by 4 and then adding 1 inch to that, because I want this to be high-waisted. And I'll go on and mark the length of my short, which is at 20 inches. Okay, and then I will just make lines at those points which I just marked. After doing that, I'll go ahead and just label my lines. Now for the turn up allowance from the length of my short, I'm going to mark 4 inch. You can as well use 3 inches for yours, but I wanted my turn up to be bolder, so I used 4 inch. And I'm going to just mark that at other points before connecting together, so I have a straight line. Then I will also label that the turn up allowance. So I'll go ahead and also label my waist area. So I'm going to do the labeling at the first line, which we marked as our starting line. I'll just go on and label that the waist. So now we can start taking our measurements. To start with, we're going to take our round hip divided by 4 plus 1/2 inch and mark it down. So you can use 1 inch. You can add 1 inch to your round hip measurement divided by 4 if you want it to be freer. I just mark that at the hip point, the crouch point, and also at the waist. And I'll go on and connect those points I've marked together. So after doing that, I'm going to take my waist measurement from that line, going this other way. That's the quarter of my waist. I'm going to mark it down, and then I'll add 1 inch to that point because I'll be adding that to that, and I'll connect it to the edge of the hip like so. Now at the crouch area, I will go in by 1/2 inch on this end here. And then I'll connect it to meet the hip point also. So if you don't want your short to be fitted, you can just ignore this measurement. I'm going to also take that at the other lines I have on the length and also on the turn up area also, so that they are matching, and I'll connect them together. Okay, so we have our measurements at that point. Now to get the crouch curve, you can use your round tie divided by 2. That's the upper round tie divided by 2 to get that. Or you can also go ahead and divide quarter of your round hip by 4. Okay, that means if your round hip is 40, you divide that by 4, you get 10. You go on to also divide 10 inches by 4 also to get that. So that works perfectly. You can use any of them. You're going to get same results. So I just marked mine down. Now from this angle, I'll go up by 1 inch and make a point there. Then I'll go on with my curve rule and just connect my crouch curve. So there we have it there. Right now, to get the measurement for the full length, take what you have around this crouch area and then minus 1 inch to that. Now because I want mine to be fitted, I removed 1 inch from that. You can take off ½ inch, or you can not take anything out. Like mark the same thing you have around that crouch area also if you want it to be free. And I went on to connect it to the crouch area. Also ensure to take the same measurements you took around the length at your turn up allowance point also, and connect them together. So this is what we have for the front. Now on this crouch area, I'm going to get the midpoint of what I have there. I will just fold my tape into 2 to get the midpoint of that measurement. And I'll make a line going up like so. That is where we're going to be placing our darts. All right, so on that line now, I'll come in and out on that line by ½ inch on both sides for my dart. And then I'm going to mark a length of 3 inches for the front dart and connect it together. All right, we have that down. Now for our fly, the zipper fly, I'm going to be marking a zipper allowance of 2 inches at that point. So placing my tape this way, I'll be marking 2 inches outwards like so. And I'll just connect them together. So I'm going to connect this line to meet the hip line. Okay, and then from there I'll create a curve to meet the starting of my crouch curve like so. Okay, so I'll just go on, I'll go in with my curve rule to make that line bold. Okay, and I'll just label that my zipper fly. So you can see this is what we have for our front pattern. So we're going to cut this out right now. So watch how I'm cutting this so that you make no mistakes while you're cutting yours. So you're going to fold in that turn up allowance point while cutting before cutting. All right, you can see how I folded mine and then I cut it out. So this is what we have for the front pattern after doing that. So we're going to just extend this dart at the waist to that top line we have so that we don't make any mistake while we're stitching this down. And I will open up the pattern so we can see how the edge looks like. So you can see we have an extension. It has like this little a cut at that bottom, so that while folding this on our fabric we will not have any shortage whatsoever. So that what we have there, the extension is about ½ inch at that point. So I'm just going to label this the front pattern, and remember our length for the dart is 3 inches. So the next thing we're going to do is to bring in another paper for the back, and we're going to place the front on top of it. So the pattern for your back should be longer than the front and also wider than it. So you're going to place your front pattern on the back to have an extension at the top like I'm placing it now. And I just went on to fold in my zipper allowance, and I'm pinning this down at various points. So now we're going to start taking our measurements for this. So from this part, I'll go up by 1.5 inches. If you're on a small butt size, you can go up by 1 inch. If you're on a bigger butt, you can go up by 2 inches. And I'm extending the back by 1.5 inches. I'll just connect those points together like so. So the next thing we're going to do is that on the crouch area, I'm going to extend my crouch by 2 inches. I would advise you extend yours by 2.5 if you don't want this to be fitted around that area, especially if you're on a big butt size. You can extend that by 2.5. Now at that point, I will go down by 1/4 inch and I will make a mark there. I will just make a slanted line to meet the initial line I have at the edge. Now this is so that it's going to sit perfectly by the time I finish stitching this down. Okay, and I'll continue extending the back by 1.5 inches at that point. But before then, I will just make my crouch curve for the back by connecting these points together. Okay, I'll go up by 1 inch just like I did for the front in a slanted form, and then used my curve rule to connect those points together to create my back curve. All right, so we have our back crouch curve. Now I'll go in and continue extending the back by 1.5 inches. So I'm just making a line at the base here so that it matches with what I had in front. Now on this other side of the front, I'm going to extend it by 1/2 inch on the side. Now also, if you want yours to be freer, you can use 1 inches to extend this, but I wanted the short to be fitted just like what we had in the intro video. And I'm just connecting this together. So you're going to mark whatever inch you're taking at the various points. That's at the waist, the hip area, the crouch area, the knee area, the full length. Okay, that's so that it follows the curve we've already created for the front. I'll just go in and also rule out the edge also so that it matches with the front. Now I'll just make a slant line coming from this end to meet these points here. So this is all for the drafting of the pattern for the short. We'll go on and then cut this out. So this is what we have for the back pattern. You can see how simple that is. Now before taking out the front from the back, we want to indicate the dart point for the back also. So I'm just going to match this back Ensure that I'm placing it properly. And then I'll just use my marker to just make points at the back to also indicate the back. That then I will extend the midline for that dart downwards. Okay, the length for the back that it's going to be 4 inches, and I'll connect it to the other point I marked earlier. All right, so this is what we have for the back. This is our back pattern. This is what it looks like. So you can decide to add measurements to the sides if you want to, okay, to make it freer. So I'm just marking that 4 inches point I have at the front, which is the turn up allowance. I just went on to mark that at the back also, and I will just write this part as the turn up allowance. Okay, now we're going to work on the pockets for the front. This shirt is going to have a pocket. Now to do this, I will be extending my pocket length from the second point. I advise you go from the first one, considering the fact that it needs to extend into the band area. Okay, I advise you go from that so that you're not mistaken. I will extend this by 7 inches. You can see where I placed my tape. So I'm saying you should go higher from the first line to do yours. And then the width of my pocket will be 2 inches. I'll just mark that point like so. After doing that, I will connect together, so you can decide to create a curve for your pocket opening if you choose to. It's going to look perfect, but I'm just going to use a slanted line instead for mine, and I will cut that out. So this is what it looks like. So remember, the top part of our pattern is for the band joining. Okay, that's what we have the half inch for at the top. I'm going to take off that allowance I have on this part of the pocket, which I just cut out. All right, so if you see we place this together, it is going to match perfectly. Now we're going to go on and cut our pocket bag. I have this piece of paper, it's on fold, and I have 7 inches on fold by width, and then a length of 12 inches. So I'm going to bring in my front pattern and place it on top of it. So you're going to place it on top of the open parts of your paper. After doing that, you want to go in with your pin to pin it down so that it stays in place. So what we're going to do is to just trace out the top part of that open part. So ensure you're placing it properly. Place your pocket, the open sides for the pocket on top of your paper properly on top of it. Okay, so you want to get a perfect fit first, and then go on and cut out the top part following the curve on you have on your front pattern for the pocket. And then you're going to bring in that piece we cut out from the front. Remember the piece we cut out, you're going to place it on top of it and pin it down. This is so that we can get that shape we had before. Remember the curves we have at the side, they need to align with what you have at the back, so that by the time you stitch them together, it's going to create the perfect curve for you. So ensure you place it down properly. So before cutting this, I noticed that it was moving, and I just had to place something on top of it so that I'm not mistaken. You don't want to be shortened. All right, and go ahead and trace out the second layer of the pocket bag. So this is what we have for this. Okay, can take it off, but before this, I'm just going to pin the down part of this and show you what it looks like. So this is where our hand is going to go into to give us the perfect pocket. Now for the edge of my pocket, I will just use my free hand to create a curve at that point. You can decide to leave it like that. It's going to work perfectly, and I'm going to cut it out. So I'm going to make little adjustments to the edge till I have like the desired curve I want at that end. So remember, when cutting your pockets, you're going to cut out two of that unfold, and then the front is going to be two, okay? And also the back, we're going to have two parts for the back. So I've gone ahead to cut it out. This is my pocket piece. I cut out two of it. I'm using 1 yard of Duchess fabric for this, and I made a notch at the point I'll be attaching to the main piece, okay? Then for the back, I've also gone ahead to cut it out. I indicated my turn up allowance point. I just made notches there, and I also notched the point where my dart is going to sit. So for the back, what we're going to do is to go on and fix the dart. Remember, it's going to be 4 inches of length, and then you're going to stitch down the crouch area by 1/2 inch for the back. I'll keep this aside. Now for the front, what we're going to do is that I've also gone ahead to make a notch at the turn up point because I don't want to be mistaken, and I also notched my dart point, okay? I'm going to take off the pattern and we're going to start working on the front. So for the front piece, I went on to iron my interfacing to the zip areas for the front. I'm also going to stitch down, take this over to the machine, and then stitch down the darts for the back. All right, then for the crouch area, starting from this edge here where my hands are, I'm going to stitch it down by 1/2 inch to this other end. So I'm just tracing out the curve so that I can follow that through to stitch it down and then stitch down the dart. So I've done that, and I also pressed it, ironed my that and also that opening. Now for the zip area, which is the important part, so you want to watch this carefully. On this end here, I've gone ahead to just fold up and just iron the entire allowance we had there. You can see the line there. I just ironed the entire allowance I had remaining. Now on this other side, which is the right side, I folded this by 2. The first fold is by 1 inch and the second is by 1 inch. Remember, the allowance we have for this is 2 inches for the zip. Now I'm going to take the other one I folded totally. I'm placing my zip on top of it. I'm going to pin my zip on that line. So ironing that down is going to indicate where you're going to stitch, okay? So I just placed my zip on top of it, pinned it down following that, and I'll go in over to the machine and then stitch it down at that point. So I've done that. I'm just going to check that I can open my zip freely. So it's important you check that, okay? So this is what it looks like. You're going to exhaust the allowance you have at that point. Now to stitch this other one, we'll be attaching it, we'll be attaching our zip to the second one, okay? That's the inside fold, the first 1 inch point we have inside. You can see where I'm pointing. That is where you're going to attach it to. So you're going to also follow that line you have there after ironing, and you go on and you pin it down. So ensure to work with your pin so that you're going to follow that up. Or if you didn't iron that, you can just make a line, measure it out, make a line there so that you're not mistaken. So it's important to work accurately when making a zipper fly. I'm going to pin that down and then go in and stitch it down. So I've finished stitching it down, and I'm going to just take off the thread I have here. Now I'm going to open this up to ensure this can open. Is important. All right, now you can see the excesses we have remaining at this point. That is going to be the fly cover, okay? That's the zipper fly cover. That's what we're going to have there. So what I'll do is to pin that down. Firstly, I will pin it down so that it stays in place. You're going to adjust this while pinning, ensure that the other one is not interrupting it, and ensure that it is smooth. Okay, so I'm going to pin that down and I'll give it a very good press. I'll go over to the ironing table and iron that down so that it's relaxed. After doing that, I'm just going to create a curve like so, starting from the top down to where the zipper ended. So when I'm getting to the part where the zipper ended, I will make a curve into that point. Okay, so I'm going to just use my hands to do that again so that you see what I'm talking about. So from the waist, you just stitch down straight, and then when you're getting down to where the zipper ends, you make a curve into that point like so. Simple. All right, so I've done that and I'm taking off my pins so you can see the zipper fly cover we have. This looks absolutely beautiful. I'm in love with how it came out. Look at how the back looks like at the back. Okay, this is what it looks like. So you go on later to weave the edges of your piece. Now we're going to work on the pocket. I'm going to bring in my pocket and unpin it from the pattern. So remember I said we made a notch at where we're going to be stitching to the piece. So it's important to indicate those things, right, so that you're not mistaken. I'm going to place that down and also pin it down to that place. So pinning down just makes the work easier for me. And after doing that, I'll go on and stitch it down and repeat the same thing for the other side of my pocket. So I've done that. I also gave it a good press and then I top stitched it. So now to close down the pocket, I'm going to measure what we had before, which was 2 inches at that edge. Okay, so I'm just measuring that out and I'm going to just place this to match. You're going to place this to match, so you need to be careful while placing this. Okay, you can be a little bit confusing, but just watch how I'm doing this. So just place this like so. You can see how I placed mine on this. After doing that, you want to pin it down at those points so that it stays in place. So go ahead and pin inside of the pocket. And then you also pin it down at the top area to align with that of the waist. After doing that, you want to stitch it down. You stitch it down at the waist and then close down the down part of the pocket bag and repeat the same process for the other side of our pockets. So I finished doing that. This is what the pockets look like. They have 2 of them sitting down perfectly on this. Now for the back piece, I've gone ahead to stitch down the darts. I've also closed down the crouch area and I make sure to press them properly. So I'm going to be placing the front and the back together, placing them right side of fabric to right side of fabric, ensuring that they are aligning by the sides. I will also go on with my pins to pin it down so that it stays in place before I go on to the machine to stitch it down. So this is what it looks like after I finish stitching and pressing open my seam. You can see the pocket opening right here. This is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do is to align the crouch area. So you're going to ensure that they are matching perfectly. Make use of your pins so that you can keep them in place. Pin it down to the edge. So this is what it looks like after I finish doing that. I'll just go ahead and then stitch it down now. Stitching, and I've gone ahead to give it a good press. All right, so the next we want to work on is our band. To do this, go ahead and take your round waist measurement, the measurement you have around your shorts, and then add an extra 3 inches to 4 inches to that. So I've cut out mine and I used 4 inches of width, considering the fact that I want this to be 1.5. So what I'll do is to go on and fold the edges. I'm just going to stitch that close. So I've done that. This is what it looks like. Now I'm going to get the midpoint of this band and I will pin this round the waist starting from the back. So you're going to align it, the midpoint of your band, to the midline of your back piece and just pin them round, sandwiching your waist in between the both of them. So I finished doing that and you can see the excesses I have at this edge. I will just go over to the machine, and I'll stitch it down. So this is what it looks like after I finish doing that. So our short is coming in together gradually. You can see how pretty and nice this look. Now to work on the hem, what we're going to do is to fold this in by half of an inch firstly, and then fold again by 3.5 inches. Remember, we added 4 inches for that turn up allowance. So I'm going to fold by half inch, fold again by 3.5, and then iron it down to stay flattened. So I'll do that. This is what it looks like after I finish ironing it down. I've not sewed yet. I'll go in and just stitch it down at that point. So ensure what you're doing is equal. Okay, I finished stitching down. I'm going to just extend this now to get that turn up effect. I'll drag this out and I will iron it down. So now finished doing that, I'm just going to stitch it down at the lines, stitch it at various points so that it stays in place. So this is what it looks like after I finish stitching. This is what it turned out to look like. Okay, so our short is looking as nice as I want it to be. So the last thing we'll be doing is to be fixing the hook and eye. You can use a button or whatever you want to use at that point, or even a pressing button will work fine, but I'll be using a hook and eye for that. So this brings us to the end of this video. Let me know if you found this video helpful. If you're here to the end of the video, please do well to subscribe and do well to like. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.